Now, Governor Josh Stein has declared that storm a Type 1 state disaster. That means the state can activate state-funded individual assistance grants for people the storm affected, including Alamance and Caswell counties. The money can be used for things like temporary housing or even rental assistance. And all this comes after a federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from reallocating $4 billion meant to help protect communities against natural disasters. FEMA initially said it was ending a program aimed at hardening infrastructure against potential storm damage. The agency then said in a court filing that it was evaluating it. 20 states, including North Carolina, filed a lawsuit, arguing FEMA lacked the power to actually redirect that money. A lawyer for the government argued FEMA should have the discretion to use the money how it sees fit. But the judge said he was not convinced Congress had given FEMA any discretion to actually redirect that funding, so he granted a preliminary injunction while that lawsuit moves forward in court.
Whew. All right, Julian, catch your breath here. We're bringing Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes in to talk more about if FEMA did break the law, the injunction, what the function of an injunction is. Let's kind of start at the beginning. What's going on with this case here, Khalif?
What's the function of the injunction? It seems like there's a malfunction right now with the process. Julian, you broke it down pretty well. I couldn't have said it better myself. This process is something that's a number of attorney general from the states, 20 plus, that have joined hands in saying there's $1 billion that we need. In North Carolina, $225 million that were cut, or I should say reallocated to some other location. Jeff Jackson, Attorney General in our state, believes that the reallocation of those funds was unconstitutional. He stated that FEMA broke the law, and because they broke the law, that is problematic, and they're asking the court to do something. We've talked about injunctions a number of times here. It's likelihood of success in the marriage. There's this irreparable harm. There's the balancing of the equities in the public policy. So we're talking about irreparable harm. The folks that have been affected by the storms in our communities, they recognize that money can't fix a number of those things. And so let's look at the BRIC program, right? This what is it called? Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. Typically, government doesn't work like that. Government is normally responsive. This program was a way to be, instead of reactive, proactive, trying to find ways to build the infrastructure so that if something happens, we don't have to scramble to try to fix it. We already have protections in place, like water pumps, like things that need to be moved from one location to another so the damage isn't caused later on after the fact. And the data supports it. Some of the numbers show that for every dollar that FEMA spends, it mitigates or saves $6 down the road. Mitigation is good, especially when you're talking about millions and billions of dollars. And so that what they're saying is the argument is this money is needed because, first of all, it's already allocated, but secondary, it will prevent future harm and future funding costs that can be deferred.
Okay, so this temporary injunction means the money can't be reallocated anywhere else, but it also doesn't mean that it's coming to North Carolina just yet. What does this temporary injunction ruling kind of preview as to what could happen with the case? Could we see the judge maybe rule for a permanent injunction? What's the next step, Khalif?
I mean, the first hand is that likelihood of success on the merits. And a judge isn't going to rule an injunction in your favor, the moving party, the petitioner, in this case, the 20 state attorney generals, if they didn't believe that there was likelihood that they would be successful going down the road. Now, is that the full case? No, but within that judge's courtroom, it is foreshadowing. If a judge is going to grant an injunction, which is an extraordinary relief, this is something that I'm saying I don't want to do as a judge. I want the case to go to distance, make sure I can settle it on its merit, make a determination. But I'm going to give you this injunction with this extraordinary relief, which is outside of the normal course. Pause and stop something that you're asking to be done and then hear the case later. Well, if I'm going to do that, I have to do an evaluation and believe that it's likely that you will succeed once you get to your underlying case. So if you're asking for the foreshadowing, it's likely that a judge will grant an injunction, is tipping their hat that they'll grant the underlying case.
We know that the projects are going towards water, sewer, storm issues, storm infrastructure during a hurricane. If the injunction fails, what's the ripple effect that we could see in North Carolina?
Pump station in Salisbury won't be relocated. Water, Beck, sewer lines in Gastonia, $5 million won't be done, and improved drainage in Mount Pleasant. I mean, these are real folks that have real issues in real scenarios. These isn't numbers on each Excel sheet when you're talking about moving things from one place to another. I know the argument from the Republican Party, from the Trump administration, has been smaller government. But when you're doing smaller government, oftentimes real people are affected, and these folks in those 3 locations are part of that lawsuit. Even if they haven't individually filed it, the Attorney General in your individual states represents you. And so if you're sitting there trying to figure out why the water pump isn't working when there is a massive storm, well, your funds that were supposed to be allocated for this project were diverted somewhere else. And so while today, yeah, it's raining outside, but it's not a storm, when that storm comes, you hope that this thing is resolved and the things that need to get done in the forefront are done before the storm comes.
Khalif, is there a resolution that doesn't actually force your hand to distribute the funds? Again, we're saying they can't reallocate it, but also that we know that politics can sometimes be a very nasty business. So they say, okay, we can't reallocate it. We're just not going to distribute it.
It could happen. I mean, we've seen a number of things right now with this administration where money has been allocated through Congress and now has been attempted to be stopped through the executive,
right.
Or the Congress is attempting to pull back and claw back some of those funds as well. And so a number of things could happen, but the pausing of it, the pausing of the reallocation is just saying, while we decide this case on the merits, you can't make that money disappear. It's kind of like if a person is getting kicked out of their house and they're challenging, the removal or the summary ejectment, the judge is going to say, well, hey, you got to keep the rent payments right here until we determine if you can be kicked out or not. Now, if you can stay in, that money that was sitting there
it's in escrow.
Is in escrow. That's what this judge is saying. I'm not determining the case, but that money that they're talking about, that $225 million, let that sit right here. Let it grow some interest while we determine what we should do with it.
All right, Khalif Rhodes, thank you. A couple more topics coming up next hour. Thanks, Khalif.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.